Tonight, we discuss some of the laws of honesty. There are many, many chapters detailing all the ways God wants us to be honest. God wants us to have this virtue so strong. No matter what is happening in the world around us, we can maintain our honesty. For the Noachide, there are 7 broad categories of laws. Of course, to say the 7 laws is a very big misnomer because each law has multiple details and sub-laws. Obviously, we know stealing is forbidden, and thank God we don't steal. But then there's all these other, like, maybe more subtle, maybe not subcategories that might occur or might not, depending on your life and the type of people in your area. Not only, of course, can you not steal, but you can't assist a thief in any way. You'd say, well, I would never help somebody steal. But if you see a robbery in progress and you don't do anything about it, that's considered aiding the thief. Well, it is aiding the thief because if you did something about it, maybe he wouldn't be successful. And if you don't do anything about it, you're helping him get away with it. So it makes a lot of sense that if you see a robbery, if you see a theft going on, and you just stay silent, you stay quiet, not my business, I don't know that person, I don't know that person, I don't know any of these people, I'm not getting involved. Unfortunately, especially in a more big city type situation, there comes this like numbed out, I'm not getting involved, not my business, don't want to get involved, sort of glaze over people's eyes. And literally, if you would see someone committing a crime and you don't do something to stop, call 911, if they don't show up, that's their issue, but you made the phone call, scream, help, thief, whatever, emergency, fire, whatever, then you're like helping the thief. That's an interesting concept. Now, if 2 people are stealing together in a partnership, which of course sometimes does happen or many times does happen, then they're both equally liable. Or if somebody sent someone, like he's the big boss and the other person is stealing on his behest, they're also both equally liable. If someone's the real thief and someone's the assistant, it's not exactly as simple, but I don't think I have to go into all the nuances. Basically, if you're connected on any level, you're connected and it's a problem, and a person can't say, well, my hands are clean, I never steal, I just tell other people to steal, or something ridiculous like that. Or I'm not really stealing, I'm just helping my friend. He's a friend, he asked me to help him. Well, what do I know what he wanted to do tonight on our nightly endeavor? You're helping him, you're part of the problem, you're part of the crime. What might be in our world, again, depending on where your world is and what's going on there, is it's forbidden on any level to benefit from thievery. So if someone stole something, nobody, including the thief, but also anyone else, can have any use of that item as long as it's in the thief's possessions. So if someone your acquaintance is not so honest, and they graciously lend you their whatever, you don't know if you can use it, because if you don't know how honest they are, you don't know if they got it through honest or not such honest means. And this is as long as the item is intact and in the possession of the thief. In other words, there's a crime of stealing and there's a crime of using the stolen item. So for the thief, as long as he stole it, there's a crime of stealing. And then additionally, there'll be the crime of using it. But if anyone else used it, the thief graciously allows lots of his friends to use his item. And if he stole it, I'm trying to come up with an example in a modern day world, a simple example. Let's say someone, it's so simple and hopefully this isn't common. Let's say someone bought a stereo system from Amazon, and then instead of returning, and then they said, oh, I don't want it. And they, they bought it on Prime, they're returning it, no problem. But then when they send out the box, they send it empty. They steal it. They send Amazon an empty box with the packing label, and they get away with it somehow. So now they have this stolen stereo in their house. If you would be in their house and use that stereo, not even knowing it was stolen, you're part of the thievery. You're using a stolen item. You need a stereo, and they say, oh, yeah, you can borrow mine. You're part of the robbery. You're using a stolen item. Now, maybe that seems like a pretty extreme example, but one way or another, there is some, obviously, let alone all the scams and extortions and things going on in this world that we probably don't know such people. There's also this minor level of stealing that's stealing. And as long as it's in the possession of the thief, no one is allowed to use it. And therefore, if you have a friend who you know is not so honest, that maybe does funny, shady things, you should never use any of their possessions because you don't know if it's stolen or not. And if it is, your innocent use of it is forbidden. It's part of this whole heist of stealing. Now, obviously, if it is an item, not exactly like my Amazon situation, but a situation where you do know that someone stole something, your real obligation is to return it to the owner. You're like, oh my gosh, I'll get in so much trouble. I can't do that. See if you can. That's really the best thing you can do if you know about a stolen item, is actually to return it to the owner. Now, if this thief stole something and then wants to sell it, obviously you're not allowed to buy it. And you could say, well, how am I supposed to know? But let's say, like I know in Chicago, there are a lot of sort of shady secondhand stores, because I know things have gotten stolen from me. And that's what I'm told by the police is what happens to them. They go to these shady secondhand stores where people sell them. So again, if a store has a reputation, if you know, it's a little shady, maybe, then you cannot buy from that secondhand store. Why? For a very simple reason. You're supporting thievery. Meaning, if people steal things and then sell them one way or another, and nobody will buy them, well, they would stop stealing. There's no point. They don't need 15 computers. They're stealing them to sell them. And if nobody would buy the stolen goods, they would stop stealing them. So therefore, you're buying from a shady secondhand store of not the greatest reputation. Well, I don't know. Okay, you don't know. But if there's a suspicion, better you shouldn't be part of it, because again, you don't want to have anything to do with supporting dishonesty. Now, obviously, our world is an incredibly dishonest place, and we all know that. And there's many levels of dishonesty. There's many levels of lying. There's many levels of cheating. Obviously, cheating the government. Taxes are due soon for those of us that live in America. Obviously, we know there are many, many, many levels of this going on. But each one of us, whatever, we have to do our part. We have to do what we can do. And it's really interesting, this concept that we all affect the world. What we do really affects everyone else in the world. So being that there is such crazy dishonesty around, is it possible that your extra caution in honesty can really help mitigate the dishonesty in the world? It's a very powerful concept. You're an honest person. You're not stealing. You're not cheating the government. You're not lying. You're a very honest person. But you can be even more. And going that extra level of honesty could be like putting it out in the air, putting it in the cycling energies. And it can really shift the energies in this world. And unfortunately, as we all know, there's enormous dishonesty in this world. Enormous. And that's why our extra care and honesty can really shift things in the world. And of course, if you have children that are absorbing your example, because it's such a dishonest world, it's really significant to be very, very scrupulous in your honesty and talk about it. Do it and talk about it. Do it and talk about it. So your children pick that virtue up, because the world will definitely challenge it. So for us to hope that our children stay strong, we have to make it so strong in our home. Absolute in our home. Yes, it seems so easy. Yes, everyone gets away with it, and we don't do. And we know God sends us all the money we're supposed to get, and we're not going to get one penny more by doing something dishonest. So it's the more you can make that virtue so strong, the more you help your children, as they will in turn deal with all the battles of the world around us. Any thoughts on this so far? Any questions? Any thoughts? Any reflections? Have any of you been in situations where you've seen honesty being compromised and you've had to struggle or stand strong with it?
Yes, I like to share something. I was in an occasion walking and on the street, obviously, and a UPS truck passed by very fast, and the back doors were unlocked, and one or two packages fell off. Then a car behind came and went over the boxes. So I picked them up and I took it back to the office.
Wow.
And I said,
that's amazing, because it's not like you didn't steal it. You actually took the time to go and return them.
Yes, and I did, but those people, they didn't care. So they were telling me, no, you take it back, you take it. They said, well, no, we don't know anything. We're not supposed to take something like that. I said, no, you return it back to the owner, and that's not my responsibility. So no, they were refusing. So I just walk away, and I left them there. That's their job. I'm like, I'm taking my time to return it so the sender will not lose.
I remember I had once a situation on my credit card. I saw, I think the credit card was supposed to reimburse me $100 for something. I don't remember what. And accidentally, someone's finger must have slipped. They reimbursed me twice, meaning I got the 100 I was supposed to get, and then I got another 100. And I remember calling the credit card company, and they bounced me from person to person. No one there had any clue how do we know how, we know when people tell us we mischarge them, but we don't know how to take back money. Like they were like, and I hope each time I said the right thing. I hope I don't remember, it was a while ago, but I hope I said, I'm an Orthodox Jew and I believe in God, and therefore, yes, I have to be honest, and you got to take this money back because it's not mine. So yes, I do remember then they were a little clueless how to take back the money, and since it was something that they weren't used to doing, they did it in the end, but it was a little bit weird for them. It was a little unusual for them.
Well, that was the point up here, that they don't know how to deal with honesty.
Well, you did your part. You did your part. Because I don't know how many of us would have done that, because it's time and effort. Pick them up and go to a store, and it's not like just saying you're not stealing them. It's time and effort, and that's that. So you whatever God wanted to accomplish, you did. What happened afterwards, you left it in their hands, and you trust they were honest and didn't pocket it themselves. Who knows what they did? There's only so much responsibility you can take, but you did your part, and that was beautiful. That was amazing. Sometimes things are just, this was really weird. It's not like an honesty issue, but sort of this idea of going. My daughter had applied, I don't remember what it's called, but in terms of wanting to what's called make aliyah, to become an Israeli citizen. So she needed something from like the Department of Justice, maybe, I didn't remember what it was. Some legal document she needed, like maybe saying she didn't have a criminal record or something along those lines. Anyway, so the Department of Justice sends us hers and sends us someone else's. They really messed up. And they sent us someone else's document. And we're like, oh my, this costs money. And obviously whoever applies for it needs it. You don't just sort of randomly apply for this type of document. You obviously need it for something. And I remember we really tried to find this person's name and number and get it back to them. I don't remember the end of the story. I don't remember at the end we just sent it back to the Department of Justice, or we figured it out. But I remember we put a lot of effort trying to figure out who this is so we could get it to them. Because obviously the same way my daughter needed it for something, this person needed it, and that's why he applied for it. So sometimes, to I don't know if that's exactly called honesty, but sometimes in these situations, it's just the challenge of, are you going to go the extra mile? You can say it's not my problem. You can say it's not my issue, or you're going to go the extra mile for someone else who you don't even know. All right. Well, getting back to the laws here, just as we said before, that if a secondhand store has a bad reputation, you can't buy from it, even if you have no clue what's stolen and what's not stolen. But sometimes they get stolen merchandise, and you're going to buy. Again, you could say, I don't know if I knew it was stolen. If I saw this was my neighbor's, I wouldn't touch it. But you don't want to support such institutions. Now, let's say a thief himself. This person is a known thief, and he's selling something. Can you buy from him? Well, we would assume not, unless you actually know that this is his. Like, you remember, that was his father's. His father had that. And he steals a lot of things that look just like that. But you remember his father had that, and his father passed away. So this is actually his. Though he might have stolen 10 others. But if this one's his, you are allowed to buy it if you know for sure it's his. But if you know he's a thief, and you know probably what he's offering you for such a great cheap price because he stole it somehow from someone else, then you, of course, are not allowed to touch it. Not only are you not allowed to buy something stolen, but in no way can you benefit from any stolen money. Let's say someone not so honest is in your group, and you're making a party. It's a goodbye party for someone in your group, and everyone's chipping in and giving you money. You can't take money from that person. They're giving it. They want to give it to you. They're not straight. They're not honest. They dabble in a lot of things that you don't want to know anything about. If you would take that money, you're benefiting from stolen money. So you're not allowed to do it. Let's say you want to make a Noachide class, and you're pulling contributions to whatever, to buy the equipment you need for the class, pay for speakers, whatever you do, and you're getting contributions. And this person said, oh, you're my friend here. You're such a good friend of mine. I know you're collecting money. Here's money. You're not allowed to touch that money. You could say, but this money is going to a good cause. Let's say you're collecting money for poor people, and this person is giving you money you're going to buy food for hungry people, for a food kitchen, you're not allowed to take that money. There's no concept of, I'll call it Robin Hood in God's perspective. The whole Robin Hood concept was stealing from the rich to give to the poor. Giving to the poor does not whitewash stealing from the rich, or stealing from anyone for that matter. So literally, if you know someone is dishonest and you're collecting money for a very good cause, like I'm saying, to feed the hungry, and these people are really hungry, someone who's being evicted from their home, and you're collecting money to pay off whatever debts they have to their mortgage company, and you're desperate for money, but this person is very dishonest and you're very suspicious where their money comes from, you're not allowed to touch that money. It does not get whitewashed because you're doing something good with it, or for that matter, they're donating it to a good cause. We do not do that ever, ever, ever. Now you can say, I don't know. Okay. We're not pretending you have to know. But if it's known that this is a dishonest person and that her money is not so clean, is not so honest, the fact that it's a very virtuous cause you're collecting for and they're graciously donating a large sum of money and you desperately need the money doesn't make a difference. You cannot touch dishonest money. And I definitely know, like in the world of Chabad houses and rabbis and things like that, this situation does come up where people are giving them donations or offering donations, but if they know the people are not so honest, are not such moral people, and they're a little suspicious where that money comes from, can't take it no matter how desperately you need it, because your good cause does not whitewash the money, and that evil of that money, that evil of the thievery will cling to you. So you're taking this for such a good cause, but the evil is going to harm the good you're trying to accomplish. The evil will affect and cling to the good you're doing, not the opposite. Now, obviously, from this, it's very obvious, as we said before, that if someone stole something and then offers to sell it to you, then you're clearly not allowed to buy it. Offers to lend it to you, you're clearly not allowed to use it. We're told if you're in a situation where you're scared, like these people are dangerous people, and if they're offering to sell it to you and you don't buy it, you could be on their hit list and they could harm you. Then in such a situation, if you have no choice, you can give them money to buy it or use it just to protect yourself. But if it's not that situation, then totally forbidden. For that matter, it's very interesting. The law is that if a child is selling something, you're not allowed to buy it from them. Because if a child is selling something, you don't know, was it theirs to sell? If you have a little kid who's making selling some items, did he ask his parents? Did he take it without their knowledge? Again, obviously if the parent is there and she's helping him run his little thrift store, whatever, little garage sale, and the parent thinks it's a cute idea, no, obviously the parent's there, so you're allowed to buy. You want to support the child, that's a great idea. But if you literally, this is the law, if you just see a child and his parents are not there and he is selling something, I don't mean like lemonade. I mean like he's selling items. We're not concerned that he went to someone else's house and stole them. We're concerned he took them from his own house without his parents' permission. Sometimes we know children do go through stages of stealing. Though usually, I don't think they're so industrious that they steal to sell. They just more like take things, like shoplift from stores or like take from their parents' wallet. But in general, it's actually the law that you cannot buy from a child without knowing that the owner actually agreed that this item can be sold. So it just shows you how careful you have to be. Another example, which again shows you how careful you have to be, because our honesty has to be so meticulous. This is a very interesting concept, which might or might not be real in your world, depending on if these things come up. So if you read in Tanya's story, and I've had similar myself, she said that she bought items, and when she came home, it's good to check your receipts when you're still in the store. When she came home, she saw that the cashier had not charged her for one item, and it was a pain. Like Ruth was talking about going to the UPS store. It's not that same thing. Obviously, they took it back or they charged her for it. And it's a pain to go back to the store but it was a beautiful testimony to serving God. And it's beautiful to use that opportunity and say, I'm a Noachide, I believe in God. And God demands honesty. Is it demanded? It's a very high level of honesty. And honesty is a very precious thing and very easy to get tarnished in our world. And therefore, it's very, very special when we can keep it on such a high level. Similar sort of to the idea of not buying from a child unless the owner of the item or the parent is there. Also, if a craftsman, or maybe you don't really deal with craftsmen, but a seamstress, a tailor, those people maybe you deal with. If a tailor has leftover material and they're offering, oh, you need this, you need to lengthen your skirt, you need to fill in your neckline. No, I have this extra scraps here. Yeah, you can, you don't have to go and buy it. I can use it. Yeah, look, it matches perfectly, same texture, no problem. Are you allowed to use that? It depends. Anyone has any ideas if you are, if you aren't? You go to I don't know if anyone here goes to seamstresses. Maybe you sew yourself. Maybe you never need your clothing altered. But if you don't sew yourself and if you need your clothing altered, people sometimes do go to seamstresses. And the seamstress or the tailor says, oh yeah, I have that extra material you need. You don't have to bother buying it. Yeah, let's see, it matches, it works, it's good enough. Yeah, you could use it. No problem. On the house. What's your thoughts? Do you think yes, you're allowed to use it, or no, you're not allowed to use it? Show me with your thumbs. Yes, you'd be allowed to use such material? No, not. You can find your thumbs in the reactions button. Or you could show me. Do you think you're allowed to use that material? You're not allowed to use that material. Okay, Natanya voted no.
No.
Dixie voted no. Ruth voted no. And we have some absentee ballots here. So actually, the law is, it depends on what is the accepted practice in that area. Meaning, something like this is very common. Or if you bought wood and someone was making you a buffet, a table, a shelf, how does it work in your area? Is the accepted practice that when the job is completed, all the extra, even though they seemingly are garbage, but scraps and materials go back to the owner? Or is the accepted practice, since they're just scraps and the owner probably can't use them, but this craftsperson probably could, do they stay with the craftsman? Do they stay with the seamstress? Do they stay with the tailor? So if the custom is that if you gave a seamstress material to make you a dress, or to fix your dress, to make it bigger, to fill it, to make it longer, close a slit, and the custom is, that's what's done, is that she gives you back the extra material, then if she didn't give you back the extra material, she's stealing. And if she then offers the next customer to use this material, you're not allowed to touch it. It's stolen goods. Conversely, in some cultures and countries and cities and areas, the assumption is that when you're giving material to a seamstress or to a tailor, or you're giving wood to a craftsman, they're doing the job and they keep the scraps because they're just scraps and you're not gonna be able to do something with them. So it's theirs. If that's the custom in your area, and then the tailor, the seamstress, the craftsman offers to you to use that, you're 100% allowed to use it because that's what's done. So I guess it's sort of, if you have no clue, it's good to ask in these situations, like, what's done? Now, usually in my experience, they give it back to you. That's usually what's done. You know, like if you're getting someone to make something for you, even if they're scraps and you're not gonna be able to use them for any good purpose, but they're your scraps, you paid for the material. So generally in my world, they do give you back the extra scraps. And therefore in my environment, if you went to the seamstress or the tailor and he or she is like, oh yeah, you need this, no problem, I have a lot, take for sure, no problem, you don't have to pay me for it, it's stealing. But if in this culture that is what happens and that is acceptable and that is honest, then it's no problem. But again, it just shows you how careful you have to be. Another example. If a factory worker offers you an item that you know is produced in the factory where he works, you're not allowed to buy it. You know he works in a toy factory and he knows you have kids. He's like, oh, here, I could give you this for half off. Do you want it? You're not allowed to buy it because even though he seems like a nice, honest guy, but the assumption is, how is this factory worker selling these factory products? Maybe the factory told him, oh, here, you could go and sell them to make some pocket money. But that sounds a little bizarre. And it seems much more plausible that maybe he pocketed them and now he's selling them. Now, it's very interesting. This is cultural, talking about culture. I have my Monday night class has many, many women that were in the former USSR. And they've told me very straight that I don't know now, but definitely under the communist regime, everyone stole from their workplace. That was just how people survived. Everyone stole. In other words, the salaries were minuscule. The doctor or the janitor, they all received minuscule salaries. And a good job wasn't if you were a doctor or a janitor. A good job was, were there good items you would be able to steal? that was the good job. Or even better, well, people for some reason want to bribe to get something to do with your job, then that was a really good job. I remember one woman was saying her father was like a bathhouse attendant. That sounds like, to us as low on the totem pole as you can get. But no, actually everyone wanted to go into that bathhouse. So he was rich because people were always bribing him. And everybody else was saying about different jobs and what was considered a good lucrative job, what you could steal from that job. That was the salary. That was how people viewed their salary, was how you could steal. And they said even the USSR, when they created salaries, if they knew this job had a lot of things that were valuable to steal, they gave the workers even less money because they knew they were stealing and they knew they were getting more from stealing than most people. So imagine being a righteous person in such a society. And again, I'm not blaming the people in the society. I'm not at all. I'm saying, this was probably survival, and I'm not faulting anyone. So they're doing it for survival. This is, it's the culture. It's absolutely what was done, and everyone does it. Imagine the challenges. There's a lot of challenges here in honesty in every situation. Today, again, just as we said, if a factory worker offers to sell you something that his factory produces, you can't buy it because it's just too likely that perhaps it's stolen. Again, you're not going to ask him, and maybe it's not, but you can't get that close to it. Now, let's say let's upgrade from the factory worker. Let's say you have a businessman who his profession is a person who, let's say, for example, he takes furniture and he repairs the furniture. He takes it, he repairs it, he returns it to his customers. He's a craftsman. He repairs furniture. Or let's say someone fixes cars and he offers to sell you. He's a businessman. He's not a factory worker. And he's going to sell you this beautiful wooden desk, custom design desk. This is his line of business. You're not allowed to buy it from him. Why not? He's a businessman. He's not like a little, person on the street, because it's too likely that it's stolen. If his line is to fix furniture and suddenly he's offering to sell you a nice piece of furniture, why would he? He makes a good salary. He has a beautiful home. He's not a common thief. We don't know. We never know what's going on in someone else's life. But if we know his business is to repair desks, and he takes people's desks, repairs them, and returns it to them, and suddenly he's offering you a desk, we don't know. And unless we have very strong proof, like maybe the owner of the desk is saying, yes, I asked this person to sell it for me or something like that. But unless we have that type of proof, we can't buy it because maybe for whatever strange reason that we don't understand, maybe he's stealing. Doesn't sound too plausible. Why would he need to steal? We have no clue. But if he's in that line of business, maybe it's stealing. And if it's stealing, we're not touching it at all. Say, well, it's not my fault. He's offering me an honest price. I would pay the same thing to someone else. We can't have anything to do with it. And, if someone binds books for people, if someone stuffs pillows for people, any of these types of professions where you're getting someone's items, fixing it in some fashion and returning it to them, and he's offering to sell you such an item, could be completely honest, but unless we really, really, really know the backstory, we are not allowed to touch it because maybe it's stolen and we can't go near there. Now, of course, there's many, many, many sub-laws in this, and I'm looking at the time, but there's many, many, many detailed laws about this concept that I just briefly went over, because there's so many sub-situations that could happen that we have to be so careful. Another example, which, again, could definitely happen in my world. Let's say you're at a wedding or an event, and accidentally you and someone else have a similar coat and you ended up walking off with someone else's and they ended up walking off with yours. I don't know if that ever happened to anyone. Definitely my children many times have lost their coats in these types of situations. Sometimes we get them back, sometimes we don't. But definitely these things definitely happen. Again, here we're talking about nobody's a thief here. We're talking about mistakes. Mistakenly, an item got switched. I'm saying at a wedding, at a concert, at a big party, a coat, something you take off, you pick back on, you took the wrong one, someone else took the wrong one. It happens often. What do you do? Well, once you realize it's not yours, you're not allowed to wear it. You might not know where yours is, but if you mistakenly took someone else's coat, or they mistakenly walked off with yours and then you thought it was yours left because, it was the last coat there, you thought it was yours, but the other person accidentally took your coat, you are not allowed to wear theirs, even if you have no clue who they are, or you have no hope of getting your coat back, and you have no way to return this coat. You don't know whose it is. You have no way of returning it, and you're missing your coat. It doesn't make a difference. You did a complete accident. But if you now would use it, it would be considered stealing. Retroactively, you stole that item. But again, it just shows you how careful you have to be. If you took your clothing to a laundromat, and the laundromat accidentally gave your clothing to someone else and gave you theirs, obviously you could go back and complain to the laundromat, but you can't use the clothing they gave you. And of course, in this place where there is someone to return it to, you have to return it. And if the laundromat says, hey, you signed a waiver, we take no responsibility, they had a ticket, I don't know what happened, not our fault, and they will literally in no way reimburse you, you still have the obligation to take this basket of laundry that's not yours and give it back to the laundromat and hope some honest person got yours and yours will show up eventually. If, again, the general rule here obviously is you're not stealing on purpose. There's no intention to steal here. But you, like this example with a laundromat, you accidentally received someone else's items. So you're not the thief. It was an accident, and it wasn't even like the laundromat's mistake, not yours, or such similar situation. Your obligation is to return it, and you cannot use it. Even if you had given in your watch to be repaired, and you sent your spouse to pick up the watch, and the watch they came back with wasn't your watch. Well, obviously, where's my watch? I don't know, there's a watch they gave me. Well, obviously you have to return that watch to the store. Nicer or worse, still make a difference, not yours. The store says, we have no clue. This is what we have written down by you. We didn't do anything wrong. I don't know, the tickets must have gotten switched. We can do nothing about it. Well, you still have to return that watch. You can't, you want to, go to the store, that's a separate thing. If you will or won't succeed, that's a separate story. But you can't keep that watch because someone has your watch. Even more, if that watch, while it was in your possession, before you got around to returning it to the store, the watch broke, one of your kids got to it and smashed it on the floor and the glass broke, you are obligated to pay for that damage, even though, come on, I don't have my watch. I got this watch by mistake. It's totally not my fault. And now I have to return it and now I have to pay for it. Yeah, yes. Because our own monetary loss doesn't give us the ability to cause a monetary loss to someone else. The fact that the store messed up, that the tickets got messed up, that has no fault of yours, 0, 0, 0, yet somehow the store has no culpability and you're not getting your original watch back, still does not give you the permission to take something else that's not yours. And there's many, 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 many examples of this concept. And again, the laws go on and on and on and on and on in discussing this idea. It just shows very strongly for each one of us to take into our own heart and our own reality how absolutely honest we have to be in every situation, which again, living in the world we live in, that's not always so simple, but we know that's what God wants from us. And sometimes you look around and it seems like everybody else is getting away with things and it's so easy and they have such easy money flowing to them. We're like, you know what, God? Every penny we're supposed to get, we are going to get. And we're getting it from you. And we're getting it in a clean and honest way. And if it looks to me like everyone else is benefiting, I know I'm sticking with you, and that's true, and that's good, and that's right, and nothing else is important. And hopefully what we learned was exactly what we needed to learn, and will help us rise up to the challenge of this sometimes very, very challenging, very valued, and very challenging dictum of God. Have a wonderful